Hey everyone, it's Tricia Carr. I'm really excited because it is the time of the year for me to offer my Animal Communication Comprehensive Program live online. Whether you are interested in the profession or if you would like to connect more deeply with your own animal family members, having an understanding of this form of telepathy will enhance your life and all of your other intuitive gifts. About once per year, I offer this program live, and that time is now. It is starting in December of 2019, and this particular live program has some bonus time added in. So the way this program works is it is delivered live online, and we also have a private study group of a beautiful community of like-hearted animal and nature lovers. Go ahead and check it out. The link is in the description, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for your love of animals, for your love of our planet, and for shining your light on our beautiful world. Welcome to Charmed Life, a multimedia podcast discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Welcome to this episode. This is going to be an amazing episode. I mean, they all are, but I have a very special guest, one of my most favorite people in the world. She is a transdimensional shift facilitator and archetypal specialist. She's been on the show a couple of times. She's just my sister. Her name is Lauren Antuofermo. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Hi, Tricia. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be here.
Me too. Lauren and I have a really dynamic kind of connected relationship. Sometimes we go for like
Pisces thing.
It's a Pisces thing, right? I think it's a Pisces thing. So Lauren, when I said archetypal specialist, she is an Akashic Records specialist. She is an astrologer, an archetypal astrologer, and she's a Pisces. We're both Pisces. And you're a Pisces moon, right? You're double? Or was it
I'm Pisces rising, Pisces sun, and Aquarius moon.
Oh, I love it. My husband's an Aquarius sun. So we will go like a couple of weeks sometimes or a little bit longer. And like, we won't be talking or anything, but then we'll like kind of say one little thing. We're like, oh, hey, I just wanted to share this thing. And then it was like, oh my God, are you in my head? That's exactly what I'm working on right now.
I know. And we go through like the same things and we get to like very similar messages. And when we share it, like it just makes us go, whoa, it just like integrates even more. So I love it when we come together and we share that.
Well, we both, the other thing.
Recently, when you were talking about
human design. Yeah, human design.
Yeah, human design. I was like, yeah, I've been reading about it. I almost like, and you brought it up. I'm like, of course we're, of course we're studying about the same thing. It's crazy.
It's so crazy though, like that synchronicity, because there are, I don't know, countless modalities, and human design has been around much longer than you and I have been doing this. And so then we both just kind of happen to start tapping into it at the same time. It's weird. Well, here's the other thing that we have in common is that we both are Archangel Ariel girls. The head of our spirit team is Archangel Ariel, and we both kind of came, and the way we each individually, before we even knew each other, discovered that was similar, right? Like I remember, like when I first asked, like, oh, what's the name of my guardian angel? And I heard Ariel, which I thought was the name of the Little Mermaid at first. I didn't even know that was the name of an archangel. But then when I found out it was an archangel, I rejected it because I was like, no, I'm not important enough to connect with an archangel. And you had a similar, right? Isn't that how, something like that?
Very similar. I mean, I made the connection with the Little Mermaid, but for some reason it came through like, oh, this must be like a little girl. Like I was still very new, and I was like, okay, Ariel, it must be like, I felt like female. I'm like, all right. And it felt like to me, what's funny, it felt like fairyish or like a young person.
Yeah.
With wisdom. And then later on, when I found out it was an archangel, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Well, but you probably did receive.
It was strange. Like archangels, what?
You may have actually kind of, the one who was communicating the connection was probably fairy-like. And I also remember part of your story, you were like, wait, Ariel, is said to, oversee animals and nature. And you're like, and I love animals. And Dee Dee's in the background there, her doggy Dee Dee, if you're watching the video. You're like, but I'm not like an, animal healer. Like, that's not my main thing. But I remember when we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, but Archangel Ariel also oversees those who are very sensitive, and the sensitive nature, because that is natural, and that's how humans connect with their spirituality and their, just who they are, is by their natural, truth. Whereas, we're kind of conditioned in this journey to be in the disillusion rather than be in the fullness of our nature. And so that's why I think part of the connection is as well. It's not just animals. Ariel is, all of the archangelic archetypes are like universes unto themselves. And you are an Archangel Realm reader as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how I started. When I started doing this, I started channeling, and that was kind of weird because it wasn't something I endeavored to do.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, when I look at my archetypes in my birth chart, then I was like, oh, now it makes sense. But when I first started, I was like, what is this? I was a little freaked out. But then I started working with archangels. And so anytime that I would work from the Archangelic Realm, I knew that I was safe and feeling good and connected. But when Archangel Ariel came through, I was like, well, that's, you're kind of very naive when you first open up. You think like limited. So you're right. It was like, no, this is about Earth. And I have like no Earth in my chart. I have no Earth anywhere. I don't connect with animals and stuff. But what I did wind up doing was connecting to Gaia and Mother Earth to be able to help people ground and bring through those like higher frequencies or higher energies. So then it made sense, for me to understand like that they work in the earth realm too, that they're not just like high in the sky somewhere, that they actually work with us in physical energy. So it was very cool.
Right. And Gaia is, Gaia is, so we should let everyone know in case it's their first time listening, because they're like, what are they talking about? All the art. Who? Gaia is the name of essentially the spirit or the soul that creates the earth. And Gaia is also an archangelic realm of energy. And And so let's talk a bit about the archangelic realm then. Let's imagine that people are hearing for the first time, like, whoa, archangels, isn't that like Catholic or something like that? Let's talk about it a little bit. How did you come into working with the archangels, and how can others connect with it? How you and I kind of at first didn't feel we had permission because it was so huge and they're so high in the sky, as you said. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, when I first started, there was like very simple information that I got from growing up Catholic. Like I knew Saint Michael or Archangel Michael, and you just hear it from a very religious perspective. And since I was like comforted by that, I felt okay with knowing that like they were there. And I had read that on the internet somewhere. But for people who like, I felt okay with the religious aspect. But when I started to see like, oh, wow, there's these humongous beings that are, in charge of big things, you feel like very little, and even in religion and the way that I looked at it, I felt very small compared to that. I was comfortable with the angel thing. That's what I was comfortable with, but you feel very small, like you're small compared to God and you're small compared to the archangels. And not that you shouldn't feel deep reverence and respect, but there's almost a belief that you don't deserve that kind of love and connection to spirit. So when I started working and, just being as loopy and imaginative as I am in the Pisces head, because I got Mercury in Pisces too. So it could be like, oh yeah, I can fly if I want to.
I literally have, I don't know. You don't, I'm sure you don't have my chart memorized, but I wonder because I literally think I have dreams, astral dreams about levitating and flying frequently throughout my whole life. So that's funny.
I recently had a dream last week that I was levitating out of my body and I started to freak out and somebody put a hand on my back and pushed me back into my body. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's nice.
When I was 10. Right now, I'm not sure.
I love it. They're like, that's okay. You don't have to. You can be in your body.
So, but the archangels are what I would say like one of the highest realms of existence between us and God, right? Like that higher, like universal source, however you want to explain it. but they are in assistance with our creation here, with us being the created, the people, like God's children, however you view it or have heard it, you can look at it from, they assist in creation. And when we do Akashic Records, you actually find out which realm of archetype that you're from, so that you know which archangel or which chakra or which energy that the archangels work with you on to help you train for existence, for co-creation, for being a human, for being a spirit, for being somebody that creates with love energy. And so I saw them as very helpful, loving, benevolent beings that are here to support our free will, not manage it, not like steal our identity and make us do things that, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of fears that I got rid of by understanding the depth of love and compassion that's there for us. And then it didn't seem so scary.
Yeah, you mentioned the Akashic Records, and so Lauren and I are both teachers and facilitators, moderators in the Lightworkers Lab, which is an online spiritual community. If it's your first time listening to Charm Life, then it may be your first time hearing about this, but if it's not, then you know what I'm talking about, and you may already be in the Lightworkers Lab. This is an online spiritual community, completely free, and you can find it on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook, but it is so not a Facebook group. It is a community. It is kept very sacred. It's a place for people to express themselves spiritually, to seek all kinds of resources there, because there are people going up live and teaching and giving free reading and intuitive guidance right there every single day. It's really amazing. And so, Lauren, you're actually teaching the Akashic Records Intensive, a whole program through the Lightworkers Lab and in partnership with Crystalline Compton, who's also been on the show a million times. So I'm so fascinated. I love hearing you talk about the Akashic Records, and I want to hear about the program. Tell me how, first of all, just to address the one thing you mentioned, when you do an Akashic Records reading, you can see the archangelic energy that you are coming from, that you are co-creating with, like the one particular, or is it like a collective? Explain that bit for us.
Okay.
And how do you know it? Is it just intuitive, or do you also use some information like your birth chart and stuff? Okay. I'll let you go.
Ooh, okay. So if I get too long-winded, you know how to shut me up.
No,
right,
I love it.
Okay.
I'm gonna clock out.
Here we go. Now, all right. So when you do an Akashic record reading, so first the Akashic records are basically think of it like a special place on the internet where you have it's like the internet of your soul's energy, right? Everything, it logs everything. You can search everything that you've ever done as a soul in your entire pathway, and you can connect with other energies there that help you move through the records to pull specific information that helps you on your soul path. The Akashic records have
her feed cut out.
Things that you could pull from, but in the Akashic record course...
Hold on, Lauren, 1 second. You just cut out for a second. But you're back, so go ahead. The Akashic record has, and then keep going. It was like the Akashic record has, and we were all like on the edge of our seat. It was just like for about 5 seconds. But
okay. So in an Akashic records reading and in course, you're actually going to see how your soul path in this lifetime gets adjusted and seen with more love and more light. The reason is because when you go to your soul's energy and your archetypes, you see what specific types of energy you bring through. So when we spoke about the Archangelic Realms, some people might actually call them rays of light. You see where your spark of the divine, where the spark of your soul originated, and where you first got your training from. So not everybody gets like the same training, because some people will have training in the seventh realm, which is the crown chakra, some in the third chakra. You actually train to be able to bring these creator energies to whatever you manifest as a soul. So, for example, if you have the 12th ray, you come here as a divine energy to bring the divine truth in a very spiritual but unjudgmental, unhinged way. Like there's no limit to your expression of the divine. There's no fear there at all. You don't bring any belief system with it. You're completely clear, right? And you have this as a gift. So you might come to the earth and move in different ways to bring that type of attitude or that type of energy to places that need that kind of deep compassion, openness to the divine, right? If you have a
I have
sacral
a question.
chakra,
Sorry, I have a question about. No, that's okay. So with that 12 now, because do we open up? I think that this is a part of understanding your records. We open up these different. Maybe like if the 12th ray is something that you start working with it at a different time in your life, or are we talking about a whole lifetime of a particular ray that you're working with predominantly? Does that make sense? Predominantly. So we're talking. Okay.
Most people have one.
Okay, that's their main thing.
People, especially doing this work, might have two.
Okay, got it.
They might have done a whole series of energy and manifestation through one chakra, and they're training in another one. So your soul gets very, very busy. But it's like an archetype. You bring from the very creation that you were gifted with at first, and you bring it all the way down to our little human experience. Mm-hmm. So somebody with that kind of energy might go to shelters and bring the divine to people who feel like they have no path. Mm-hmm. Or they might be a teacher, or they might be like a server, like whatever it is, they bring that intention with them, and it manifests in different roles in different ways in your life. But always that's one of your divine gifts. You know, we don't have like every gift. We couldn't handle all that, right?
Right.
We bring through the unique part of this is that everyone has a unique celebration of all of these core identities, and it gets expressed in the physical realm in very unique patterns and unique ways, so that we can all co-create. If we all had everything, then there would be no, co-creation.
Right.
So what you bring to me and I bring to you allows us to expand in something new and learn even more. You also learn to get what's called your soul training, what you do next as a soul. Some people are like guides for past life reviews. Some people do energy work with plants as a soul. They learn how to work energy for the physical realm. So there's so many different kinds of jobs that you do as a soul. So somebody with that archetype would come through and maybe be a botanist, or maybe love to have plants in her house, and that's how she keeps the peace around people.
Or some kind of homeopathic, like holistic healer. Or I had a woman on the show who who makes CBD and has like this special strains of the hemp and marijuana, I think, but I can't remember which is which, but of those plants, and she like speaks to them, she cultivates them, she connects to. She says it is a she, and she talks to them. That was a really great episode if you guys want to go back and listen to it. But very much in that healing plant energy. Or I had another woman on who did flower essences, and she would do that too. She would cultivate them and speak to them and speak over them, and like the way that actually our friend Crystalline Compton does with these crystals that she sells or makes available to us. So so what about that? If someone were to have a special kind of energy with crystals or minerals and that kind of spiritual technology, that come from maybe the same ray, or might it be another one? Just curious if that makes sense.
It could be different ones, but how you work with them would fit your archetype.
Yeah.
So somebody with the crystal energy, she might work in the higher chakra system, but she's also a very grounded person. She works in the earth energy with them.
Right.
So she might have a root chakra training too. She might work in a realm that has, so she can use earth energy to imbibe these crystals with. So there's so many various things, but the cool part of it is that you understand that your soul purpose is almost always being served. You bring that identity with you as a person. So when you know that your soul is already offering you energy to live out your purpose, you can't miss out. You can't get it wrong. You're just going to apply it in different ways. And when you know it and when you understand it, you do with what you have. And when you create more from that, you expand your soul light even bigger. So that's the cool part about the Akashic Records, is that they can show you these things and draw more of that soul light into your physical reality, so that you serve more on that path, and that you kind of release some of the fears of expressing that divine self.
Because you then know it as truth, and therefore you can relax into it. You can surrender. You can both surrender and take responsibility and say, yes, this is how I move forward. So you can do both. So first of all, you are teaching the program. You guys need to check in the description because there is a link for the Akashic Record Intensive that Lauren is teaching with Crystalline Compton, and it starts in about a couple of weeks? Yeah, about a couple of weeks from the time
November
that you
18th.
listen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. November 18th of 2019. And if you're listening like in 2020 or something like that, go check the link anyway, because it may be being offered again, and there are other programs on the Lightworkers Lab that both Crystal, Lauren, all three of us, Crystal, Lauren, and I are teaching together and individually. And so that's one way with your program. You can learn about your own archetype, and then your program is also helping people to be able to be facilitators to actually help others understand and read their Akashic Records. So would someone want to get a reading today first before they do your program, or just go ahead and do your program, and that's the best way to start to understand some of this stuff?
They can do both. A lot of people have actually booked readings with me, just so they can understand their own first and then do the course.
Yeah.
And some people have studied the Akashic Records in a different way, and they're using this course as like a supplement to add to what they already, know and understand, and just to, get more information and maybe learn different things than they were taught already. So this is really about like what you want to do with the Akash. You can serve just yourself in it, and you'll definitely learn how to gather your own information in this course. So we will teach you how to connect to the records, how to properly open them, receive energy from them, release anything that's not of highest, energy for you right now, close the record, seal it, and then bring in new guides, new alignment, and new awareness, so that you can use that energy and go forward. And if it's just for yourself, then it could be very, very powerful, but it's also a great tool if you are a reader or healer and you want to add to your toolbox. You want to, have a new service, something that's really, really powerful, because it's not a lot of people that do the Akashic Record readings. And because it takes a lot of like time and effort to study, to really get the records, in the right place for people to know how to treat the record so that actually changes the life path, is unique. So that's how we are going to teach it. So you can understand how to gather the information, but also how to transmute and transmute and honor the record, so that it brings through the truth of who you are and doesn't repeat past cycles or past wounds.
If someone were to get a reading with you and then get a reading with someone else, and even if let's say they're using the same system, or actually, I don't know whether they're using the same system as you or not, might they get two different kinds of perspectives? So like this one particular reading said, I'm working with the 12th ray, and this other reading said, I'm working with the 3rd ray. Is that possible? And how would one know which, obviously, what resonates with you, but is that something that happens, is my curiosity.
Well, the easiest way to understand that is when people go into the records, they have a different view no matter what. Because if I go into your record and I pull certain information, it's going to apply to who you are at this moment.
I see.
If somebody goes in and says, well, that's not true, you're this one, then they're not coming from source. If they say, oh, that's wrong. But if they're pulling energy from a different ray, it could be something that you're also working on, because you won't repeat the same reading. They don't allow that because they don't want what has already been treated with energy to be.
Oh, I see. So it should be different. It should be different. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so it is possible to gather information from the Akash and see it. There's actually a really great quote that I recently read from Edward Casey, who really taught us a lot about the Akash, the Great Hall of Records. And he said, you know, a lot of readers and healers and light workers can read the records, but depending on your belief system, prejudices, or, you know, energy, you could incorrectly read them or interpret them in a way that doesn't fit what the God aspect wants. And so, I mean, that's with anything, you know, you read something, you and I are going to interpret it differently. But when you have like that certain guide that click into the Akashic record, that's very important to be able to transmute. You have that code or that energy that allows you to do that work and then seal it so that nobody else can mess with it, because it's the higher self, it's the soul, it's the God aspect that is changing the record, not me, not you. Right.
And so it is absolutely. And so it's alive. The Akashic records are alive. Yes. I think it would be a good way to say it. It's always, it's a living hall of records, or it's a living, just like, well, I mean, like you said, the internet. I think we created the internet to remind ourselves of how the structure of our soul and the structure of the universe actually functions. Only it's on a much higher level than the universe. Than the internet, I mean. And so it is alive, so you can look at your records frequently, whether on your own or with a reader or a facilitator, because it's endless. It's not something that is static like a book and it's been written and that's the end of it.
Right. And what's interesting about that question, it just brought up a good example. When I just did a Akashic record reading yesterday, and one of her Archangelic realms is from Archangel Michael. It's the third eye chakra. So we were talking about this and how this is where she might feel like she doesn't have a lot of energy, but she's working on increasing this chakra and communicating it in a unique way. After the reading was done, she said, well, I had my first reading with Crystal a few years ago. She was still doing it, and she told me that one of my jobs in this life was to bring training to my third eye.
So different perspective. I mean, a different modality, a different road, but led to the similar information. So
it would. I mean, if you're really in that clear awareness, you're going to get very similar information. If it's completely like opposite, then I don't know.
That's something. Well, I remember when it happens a lot. Constantly people connect with me and they say they'll see leprechaun, which seems kind of random. And what's funny, when someone says leprechaun, they'll be like, I see like a leprechaun. Like they don't necessarily have the experience that that's some kind of energy that's a real thing beyond like Lucky Charms, you know what I mean? or just often, you know, fairy energy or elemental energy. People that don't know me, I have a little coterie of crystals on my desk right now, and I picked them out at this crystal store, and I wasn't chatting with anyone, and I took them up to the desk, and the reception, the one who was checking me out was like, oh, look at your little fairy collection. And I was like, oh, you know, whatever. I didn't say anything. I was like, oh yeah, they're pretty, huh? And then the owner of the store came along behind, who was didn't hear her say that, and looked over her shoulder and said, oh, look, she has like a little fairy collection. And she goes, that's what I said. And I was like, how do you go? And I do work with fairies, so it's so weird. They're not intentionally reading me. Well, they're just seeing the crystals. My crystals are telling them everything, I guess. And I don't even know why. So one thing that has been, I was about to say one thing that Spirit has been telling me, which probably then Spirit's telling you this as well, because we're always, I can always feel the little anchors, and it's like, and Lauren's definitely going to be on this tip too, is that when something is true, that there are truths in the universe. We say there are infinite perspectives, and that is true, but when something is true, it's true from all of the infinite perspectives. And so something about how your soul energy is running, even though it's a translation, when we say something like fairy energy or third eye energy or Michael energy, there is a core of truth to that is beneath the words. And since we have limited words in our language, we might often come back to those words, but the same energy beneath it.
Yeah.
And I imagine all of the archetypal kind of studies that's what you are super interested in, I think. Sorry, you said I've been getting, what have you been getting?
No. Well, now you got me on the archetypal thing, and that's what we do in astrology and in the Akash.
Mm-hmm.
In the Akash, you find the levels of your soul
Mm-hmm.
creative energies and how it translates to this lifetime. In astrology, you find how that energy is working in the human realm.
Mm.
And you can use astrology in so many different ways. But the way that I use it from an archetypal view and even the Akash is that archetypes hold a vibration, not a prediction.
Right.
They
yes.
hold a frequency, not a decision.
It's a potential. Right? Yeah, it's potential energy.
It's a potential.
Yes. And
so
in that potential, it's like our DNA. Our DNA is potential. And
yes.
So this is fascinating because as above, so below. And epigenetics is showing us that our genetics, it's how we actually respond to them. So even if we have genetic diseases, we don't have to activate them because it's how we respond to our genetics. And then there are a certain percentage, a very small percentage, that are sort of like pretty binary. They're going to be clicked on. So the only option, I made a choice that I was going to be fair-skinned female. You know what I mean? Like I just was going to be. I was going to be born on March 17th. There's no way to change that. That is something that is clicked on. It's binary. It's on or it's off. And that means I'm doing it in this life or I'm not doing this life. And all of these archetypes, but the genetics then or the DNA are just archetypal energy as well. And so I think that's what you're looking at. That just kind of clicked in my mind. I'm like, whoa, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can absorb everything you just said and just remember how everything is the spiral. What are the Fibonacci sequence? Everything just keeps, it's an energy of understanding from the deep consciousness of our collective that we're all in cycles of growth. Periodically coming back to the same archetypes, expanding them, reaching the higher potentials. And the higher potentials are always being reached by our creative ability to see love in all that we do. So that's why love is so important when you're connecting to spirit, because when you're connecting to spirit, you're opening up the door to use the higher potentials of this reality, which may mean that you have to discover how to use that through some challenges, and the archetypes themselves bring their own challenges with them. They're not like just easy flow, but they also give you perspective in a situation that somebody else may have a complete different aspect of the same situation. And what that does is call for co-creative energy to either provide more awareness of love or more awareness of what is needed to provide love. And when we understand that, we become the higher frequencies of co-creation, even in the face of challenge, even in the face of dissent, even in the face of fear. So when you use archetypes, you're actually using the human potential rather than the human description. And so many personality coded energies. There's so many different, archetypes of astrology, of human design, all these different ways of holding the human in certain patterns, but also understanding throughout those patterns, there is a potential for a higher purpose and a higher reality, which is always cyclical. So even if somebody's in a lower cycle, eventually they get to, a bigger cycle and a more expanded cycle. So when we talk about archetypes in astrology, we see the potential in the human form. When we talk about them from the soul identity, you're seeing a bigger co-creative at a level that we can't really hold on to in this dimension, but understand as a flow into this dimension, right? So we may not know how it all works there, but we understand that it flows into us as the divine. And so whether you're working with archetypes or personality descriptions, a description might warn you of a negative personality type, but an archetype shows you the potential of that characteristic or that description.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's what the archangelic energies are as well. I mean, arc means the stamp. It means essentially it's kind of like the demarcation that gives you it's like a portal into an energy. And so
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, and so that's what the archangels are as well. They are endless potential. and of the structure of existence and creation and co-creation and infinite and eternal creation. And so there's no surprise that that you actually started with the archangelic energies and working in that energy, and now you're finding these other archetypal ways that humans can connect with it. So you said that astrology is like the archetypal energy to help us to work with the earth in the human form, essentially, right? Well, because it's actually formed like consciousness, right?
Consciousness expressed in this realm.
Expressed as physical. The divine it's basically the Christ energy, because the divine, that's what Christ energy is the divine becoming physical, becoming human, or becoming physical in some sense. Yeah. And that's what the planets are that give us the archetypal energies. The planets are Christ consciousnesses because they are divine expressed physically, right?
Yes. There's a really neat thing that I've been connecting to recently. If you take the archetypal astrology course, well, hold on. There's an archetypal astrology course that I'm coming out with too in a few days, actually. But in the Akashic Records, you're going to find that I'm going to give you the foundation of each of the 12 zodiacs so that you understand Christ consciousness through the sun sign. The sun sign is basically relative to how you perform your purpose or your energy in this world. It relates to the solar plexus, the sun, where that sun comes into heart. It is the Christ consciousness. You're the divine self, because the ego kind of can fall back into fear, pain, anxiety, worry, or even in lack of consciousness when there's no heart connected to the sun. Then the sun depletes rather than expands. But when you have your sun sign connected to you and you understand that the quality of light that you expand in is relative to the high heart, the heart that, Christ had, that exposes clarity, compassion, love, all those things, relative to the divine self. He says, I am the light, I am the way, I am the truth. That exposes his archetype, which was basically the light of God incarnated. And his light comes from the divine human self, the son of God, the sun, the solar plexus of God. So this, again, archetypal description of how this relates to the world. When you connect with the archetypes of astrology, your divine purpose comes through your solar plexus, but only when in connection to the divine. That's the divine will, which is more freedom than the ego will. And so when you understand your solar plexus and your divine will, you understand clarity of your divine purpose, and you allow that to lead you from the heart rather than the fear of what is missing.
I'm right. You said the divine will has more freedom than the personal will, or what?
Ego will.
Ego. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's
right.
Amazing. Because God, we were just at the Bliss retreat together back a couple months ago, and that is the retreat that is put on by the Lightworkers led by Crystalline Compton, and we both taught at it, and that was a big part of the message that was in my workshop was God's will, or the one will. When I say God, I mean all of us collectively. I don't mean a dude sitting on a cloud, or I don't mean the religious. I don't mean the religious word God. I like the word God sometimes to speak to the same energy as source energy, prime creator energy, the universe. I like the word God sometimes. I used to not like it because, and I'm saying this because I know you're the same way. I used to not like it because of religion and because it had this kind of stank on it from religion, and so I didn't use it for a while. But then I kind of redeemed it for myself. And when I use the word God, it's kind of like my personal experience with the universe, or, creator energy. So anyway, that's how Lauren and I both use the word God. One time I used the word God in a meditation, and it's actually on Insight Timer. And I got a review that said, I don't really think of God as a man. And I was like, I didn't even use a pronoun either. I didn't even say he or anything. I just used the word God. And they interpreted it as like, God's not a man, because that's what their coloring is. I wanted to mention that. But God's will, or the one will, for me, I also come through that because of the nature aspect of being a teacher of nature and spirit, and that spirit is natural, and it is natural to be your spiritual self, and the way we enter that is through our true nature. and how nature actually is one will. An ecosystem is working together so that every component is nourished and expressed because that serves everything. And so we can see in nature, like, this isn't just woo-woo stuff that Lauren and I are tripping on. It's how it works. A system, a complete system takes care of every part of the complete system. And so as you said, divine will or God's will has more freedom than that of the ego, because the ego experience that you're talking about is separated from the complete system. Yeah. And so there is more freedom in divine will because it's everything. It's the whole will. There's no end. Yeah. Amazing.
Because you see more expansion, you see more choice, you see more, the divine will is not some like spoken word to you, telling you what to do. It's an awareness of your divine, I guess, purpose or identity connected to love. Yeah. That's really what it is. When you're in divine will, you don't see failure of humanity. You see joy of the creative process, which doesn't mean you don't see what's wrong, but you do see the potential, you see the creative spark, you see the identity with the divine in everyone. That's kind of like where, I think of namaste, the soul in me honors the soul in you. The spirit in me honors the spirit in you. When I think of ego identity with the solar plexus, I feel opposed to the creative position. So opposed would be I take in order to get what I need. I covet from somebody to take, which you take from yourself. You remove identity with love, or you burden yourself to give what you do not have in order to suffer in order to receive. And that's a difficult difficult, to explain. But when there's a giving, there's no letting go of something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When there's a real gift, when you gift somebody something, you give them the gift, and your hands come off it, and what they do with it after, there's no relationship back to you until a gift is honoring you for the work that you have created, in that way. When you hold on to a gift, such as like, I give you a gift and now you have to give it back to me, then there's a fear, there's a lack of consciousness in that type of giving. And that's what I mean by like giving what you don't have and then expecting to be shamed in order to receive what you need, if that makes sense. So the divine will sees gifts, sees love, sees service without fear, and then sees the joy of that coming back to you with love and abundance. And abundance means commitment to the now without overextension of the sources that abundance is providing you.
Without overextension of the sources that it's providing you. Say that. Yeah, go and say that. That was, I want to unpack that bit because that was powerful.
It's like the resources that provide you with more than enough is more than enough. So it doesn't need to be depleted in order for it to serve you, serve others.
Right. I am just about to, on my channel, I'm doing a 29 days of lunar phase right now. And oh yeah, thanks. And so we're in as we're doing this episode, we're in the crescent moon phase for about 3 days of crescent moon, 3.5 days. And the law of grace came through as a really powerful. So it's on my channel now, the law of grace as it concerns the crescent moon, because in the new moon, it's really cool. The new moon is the experience of facing your creator energy. You're not even, your back is to the earth, and so you're just with source. And that's why the moon is dark, because it's in alignment with the planet and the sun, and so there is no illumination reaching out. There's no creation reaching out to the earth at that time. But then as you start to, as the crescent moon happens, you're still mostly connected to source, but you're starting to become a bit illumined and shine that to the earth. But you start to feel a little bit vulnerable, because you're kind of like, not really, you're moving into the illusion of disconnecting from source. You're not truly, because it's still, that is your source. That's why you're illumined. But so you have to kind of start to rely on the law of grace and allow grace to be there for you, because grace asks you to be present with the fact that you are well and you are abundant. You are. You just are. Lest you be looking at, well, what if my relationship ends, or what if my bank account runs out? That's not present, because right now is where you are. And unconditionally being present and alive in the experience that is the truth of the now. I had to go off on that, apparently.
No, that's so good. And I'm like, I'm making all kinds of crazy faces. I'm like, oh my God, we're on the same page.
No.
Because I've been talking about this on the EQ reports that I've been doing.
Emotional
which is really
quotient.
about understanding
She does that
the
on
depth of knowledge of Scorpio now.
Wait, she does this on Facebook. I have to stop you to interrupt. She does her EQ reports on Facebook. You have to go follow her, find Soulful Transformations, Lauren Antuofermo. EQ reports, emotional quotient reports. So anyway, the moon in Scorpio right now. And you got a Scorpio sun, is that right? So you know about that Scorpio energy. Is that right?
Scorpio daughter. Yes.
Oh, Scorpio daughter. That's right. No, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anthony is Aries. That's right.
Yes. That's right. Yes. Oh my God, I can talk to. Anyway, so sweetest asshole you ever meet.
Which one? The Aries are?
Aries, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sweetest assholes you ever meet.
Scorpio, you're really it's ruled by the planet Pluto of the 8th house, which is the darkness, where we go to deplete ourselves of lack, of anger, of pain, so that we can rise again.
So we deplete, we run that out, we release it, is what you're saying. We deplete ourselves of those energies. We like squeeze ourselves out of those energies.
Yeah.
That's what the new moon did then, because we were dark to being, expressing our creation, and it was in Scorpio. Anyway, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly kind of what you're talking about, except with the moon cycle, where again, coming back to the word cycles, when Scorpio comes to the full light of itself, it has burned away all that which is fear. That's why Scorpio is so feels so indebted, feels so deeply indebted to the pain of their cycles, to process it, to burn that which is no longer of the light, so that when they become rebirthed, they see the light of their consciousness. Anything that puts the consciousness in pain or in lack of love will be delivered by the grace of God, so that you can validate what is needed, and then become the creator of what was needed in those dark spaces where there was lack, where there was shadow, because Scorpio rules the shadow, Halloween, think all that stuff. Anything that creates scary shadows on the wall, what are you scared of? You're scared of the shadow, not the thing that creates it, right?
Right.
So once you get past being afraid of the shadow, and you get to the thing that's causing the shadow, you go, oh, I can receive this now with love, and turn the light on, and there's no more shadow. And that's the energy of Scorpio and Pluto.
And you know what?
And so what we're doing this whole season with Mercury retrograde, and with the moon that started with the new moon in Scorpio, this is the completion cycle of that kind of energy.
And you know what's so important about you mentioning that right now, and how this alignment came for you to do the Akashic Records intensive at this time, is because sometimes people, they may be listening to a program like this, they're starting to listen to different or watch different things, but they are still afraid to look into their own truth, because they're afraid they're going to find something that is painful. And it's just not true. When you start to look into, whether it's through some kind of archetypal modality or just in your own meditation and your own inner communion, you're going to just find beauty, and you're going to hold space for it. And anything that is painful, that is showing up as suffering, is there because it's leaving, not because you are creating it at that time. It's actually on its way out. And that's what's, I think, is so powerful about, wow, again, synchronicity, you setting this up when you do. That's amazing.
I know. One of the things I keep talking about for the Akashic Record courses, the willingness to receive. Because when somebody comes to me for an Akashic Record reading, I look into their Akash and I see what is necessary for them to receive. And the first part is communicating with the wholeness of who they truly are at this time, so that they can see what is needed. And then once you understand that part, once that clicks, all the rest of the soul energy can come through by clearing that fear, by clearing that lack-based belief, not just by telling you, oh, it's not that scary, don't worry about it, but by telling you what the culmination is, what the light of consciousness wants to give you in place of this fear. And when the light of consciousness comes through, it delivers love, it delivers clarity. It connects with grace. And you can't reserve love until you get better. Grace is what reveals to you the light, right? Like it would be crazy to say, well, until I improve this, until I get rid of this pain, I can't serve, I can't love, I can't be who I am. It causes the backlash constant. You can't move on from that because you're waiting forever for something to be removed that grace is asking you to receive. So whenever I do a healing or an Akashic record healing, and this is what the students are going to learn, that it's grace that creates the record opening and closing. It's not you have this karmic tie and you must release it, you must reject it, you must suffer through this until you learn the lesson. It's grace that completes the cycle and honors the clarity of what comes next. And that's my mantra for everything that I do, but especially in the Akashic records. If you can get that, you can have access to the higher realms of the Akash and do even more spiritual like work in there. It's crazy the amount of information that you can get in the Akash. But when you do this first, you'll slowly be given more access to more records and more things, universal laws, things of past lives that can be delivered in a different way. Such as like the archetypes of astrology. The sufferer was always Pisces. We were seen as the sufferer, the one that had to suffer society's pain. But now with the higher frequencies, with the higher realms, we see the potential of Pisces being that which brings the cycles of life to a close, to see the potential in the light rather than the suffering and what that means, the death. Pisces rules the 12th house, the death house, where we go to die. But we don't go there to die. We go there to be rebirthed, to be closing of what we have seen and bring life to the now. Pisces is supposed to be very, very present to the now, to bring that grace. So we're not supposed to suffer. We're supposed to bring the light to this cycle, this day, this avenue. And when we see the suffering, we bring love, not fear.
Yeah.
And that's how we heal. And so again, it's a very high archetypal image. Doesn't mean, all as Pisces are God's gift. But
I certainly wasn't the first 20 years of my life.
No, me neither.
30, let's say 30.
A few here and there.
Yeah, a few through all right. Let's stop counting.
Yeah. So, when you see that kind of potential, you say, oh, I'm not supposed to suffer. Like, that's not my lot in life.
Right.
But when I do, I see the potential in love, right?
Yeah.
It opens up a gate that you thought was previously closed to you.
Mm-hmm. I have a question about the different, and we're basically out of time, but I want to get this question on the program. The distinction between the Akash or the Akashic Records, but really the Akash, that field, and the crystalline grid of the earth, because the crystalline grid is obviously the way that we connect with, creation and being and creating and being the creator and the created, but it also is a recording experience as well, the crystalline grid. So what is the distinction, or are they kind of one and the same, just one is in the earth?
Well, I actually started to understand this more deeply recently, which is really fascinating to me. Each planet has its own Akash.
Yeah, okay.
So it records every experience here.
Okay.
When we learn about the Akashic records in the course, we'll learn how the soul energy comes through the solar plexus to be exhibited, but the soul light comes through the soul star energy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And your earth body and experiences come through the earth star with the greatest potential for this pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So that you stay in the present here. It holds your present energy.
Right.
It also holds the history. So your soul can bring in every potential for you as a soul, but then the earth star chakra holds your experiences here so that you can honor those, receive what is needed, and complete those cycles and start new ones, from grace, from exactly that we were talking about. So the earth star chakra and the crystalline grid records everything that happens here in order to work with the divine. So as above, so below. There's no separation of the Akashic records in this way. You just know they're recorded in different places in the Akash, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. That was my feeling about it without having asked anyone else or reading about it. So it just totally makes sense. And I just wanted to hear you say that to see if I had been tapping into it. So yeah, that was before I even knew had the words crystalline grid, or I guess I'd heard Akash and everything, but like years ago, and I was understanding the Earth star and the Soul star and how these entry and exit, these vortices function. And so thank you so much for clearing that. That makes so much sense to me. It's totally clear. Well,
Cool.
we are actually, yes, we are out of time. So again,
Yeah.
y'all, it's starting in a couple of weeks, the Akashic Records Intensive. I'm super excited about it. And what else would you like to share? What else would you like to tell everyone who's listening? And thank you so much for coming. So awesome. I love it. Love to spend time with you.
Oh my gosh, I know I could talk to you forever, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if you are interested in the Akashic Records, if you want to do that, take the time, look over the link, see what works for you, see if those lessons and those energies feel like something that's going to be part of your life, part of your work, part of something that draws you in. If it doesn't draw you in, you'll know right away.
Mm-hmm.
But take a look at the course itself. Go to the link and see, because for those of you that are really ready to do this type of work, it's gonna help you. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to do those types of readings, take a look at this course.
Mm-hmm.
It might not fit your dynamic, but if it does, if this is something that you're ready for, you will feel it. And if you feel it, that's the call to join us. So yeah, that's it.
And I'm going to be there, and I'm so excited about it. I can hardly wait. Unless I got a little sneak preview. I got to, well, everybody did by having you on the show today. So thank you so much. And I want to tell everyone, too, before I sign off, that I am also doing my Animal Communication Comprehensive Program, live program. It's starting about 4 weeks after Lauren's. So you can do both. You can. And there's actually bonus time set in. So stick around after the episode, and I have a little explanation of that. And so and don't forget to go join the Lightworkers Lab on Facebook as a group. Crystalline Compton created it. We are all there just loving on each other, expanding. Our lives are powerfully changed by this community, right, Lauren?
Yes.
We'll put a link. There's nothing else to say. We'll put a link in the description of this episode too. And so again, thank you so much, Lauren Antuofermo of soulfultransformations.com. Go check her out, book readings with her, take her programs. Thank you so much for everything that you do and for being my sister. I love you.
Thank you. I love you.
And everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode. Thank you for supporting. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Let other people know about it if this is helping you at all. And also let me know what you would like to see. You can comment on the videos on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, you can also leave a review there if you look in your podcast app. But I really do appreciate you contributing your light to this, because it is a co-creative experience. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are. Hey guys, it's Tricia Carr. I have new exciting things going on with my Mystic Arts Academy. You can now subscribe to receive all of the live monthly content for about a third of the investment of a single class. Included are at least one downloadable guided meditation per month, 2 live events ranging from classes, channeled messages, group readings, intuitive development guidance, Q&A sessions, and tons of community. You'll also have access to a private Facebook community for fellowship and support, and this space is kept super sacred and high vibrational. Your subscription gives you access to the whole library of classes and live events, which are on a vast array of topics. All events are offered online by Zoom video call, and many are also offered live in person at my studio here in Los Angeles. Subscribing to the Mystic Arts Academy is also a way for you to support the Charmed Life podcast and engage on a deeper level. I'm offering the subscription at a super low rate of $22 a month. Joining now locks in this rate for as long as you're subscribed. Click on the description of this episode or go to to my website, triciacarcharm.com, and click on Mystic Arts Academy. I look forward to connecting.